Code information, Mike. Wind at 320 degrees at 6, temperature 53, altimeter 3000.
People like you, organizations like RampCheck, I love you guys.
4, 5, 6. Gotta be down, ready now.
You are clear for takeoff runway 21 left. Winds are calm. Stand by for the retrans on uniform. It's showtime.
That's right. It is showtime. Hi. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the RampCheck podcast. I'm Tony.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Ryan. What's up, guys?
What's up, brother?
Tony's right here.
Hey, look.
We can actually touch. And
Here.
yet,
Here, I'm going to pass you my phone.
for real this
Can I have it back?
Here
Okay,
you go.
thank you.
Sorry you can't be here in St. George, Utah with us, Aaron.
I know.
But,
I know.
That's okay.
It was a nice 72 and partly cloudy up here though, so it was pretty nice. Can't complain
good.
about
Nice.
the weather right now.
Yeah, here it got up to about, about 75. But right now it's cloudy. It's kind of sprinkling outside.
Yeah.
Chance of thunderstorms. So we'll see what's happened. Hey, how's our video, by the way?
The video's great. We have a little bit of a mic issue though. Ryan's a little quiet, but I think he's okay. I mean, I think we can still hear him. But congrats on your new internet, brother, because I know you wanted to bring it up.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Did you
Yes,
expect anything different?
I think we finally got the internet issues fixed. I got brand new internet. We were going like right up to the wire. The internet guy, the cable guy was here just like he left at like 6:15.
Oh,
And
wow.
I tested my internet speed, and I'm telling you, 900 meg download and almost 20 meg upload. So
congratulations.
I think it's fixed. So,
All right.
Hey,
Let's
and
cross
let
our
me say,
fingers.
It's good to be back
Let's
with
do
you
it.
guys in like studio person, whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
Right.
I'm looking at myself on the camera and I'm seeing my, from the
Your
floor.
raccoon eyes.
Yeah. So anyway, it's good to be back with you, brothers. But I'm glad I was able to check in while I was down there.
Yeah, it looked like a good trip, and got some cool, footage and photos from that museum down there too.
Yeah, and maybe on next week's podcast, I can talk about that a little more, but not tonight. And you want to let everyone know why? Dun, dun,
Well,
dun.
we have another guest on. We got a really special guest here. Should I say his name before, or should we bring him on board first?
Let's bring him on board in just a second. We got a couple of quick chats we need to.
You got it. We'll run through that real quick.
Aid Carver, all the way from across the pond. It's 2 a.m. It's RampCheck time.
Yeah.
You bet your sweet ass it is.
We're gonna have to trademark that.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Carver.
Aircraft images checking in.
That's
All
right.
Check time. So cool. Thank you for that. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And we've also got Wadman checking in. Glad
All
the
right.
donations finally paid for the internet upgrade.
Oh, so
Me
that's
too.
where all those are going.
Oh man. Yeah, exactly.
All
Those donations. Yeah, right into my pocket. So anyway, should we make an introduction, or should we just,
Well, that's what Aaron was asking.
just
Should
do it
we-
RampCheck style and just start this?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just let's bring him on board, and then we've got a lot of photos, got a lot of questions to ask him. Tonight is about an awesome American that flies one of the most badass machines out there, the AH-64 Apache. So let's bring him on right now.
Oh,
all right.
Look who it is.
All right, can you hear us okay?
Garrett, we're talking to you now.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Technical
on.
difficulties.
hey Garrett, stand by,
Garrett, are you
folks.
with us?
Stand by. Let me text him. Ryan and Tony, kind of do some filler a sec.
Well, maybe this is a good time for me to talk about
Oh,
Florida
man.
a little bit. Yeah,
RampCheck
maybe?
time.
I don't know.
Yeah, why not?
Well, like I kind of did when I checked in last week, but the the place we were staying in, Destin, Florida, rooftop pool right by Eglin Air Force Base. Sorry, I was reading the message, but man, I had no idea it was so full of like military and commercial aviation area I was in. Man, just every day it was like an air show for me while I was hanging out by the pool. Really cool. Saw everything. I mean, well, I wouldn't say everything, but you know, I again, if you tuned in last week, I think I named them off, but C-130s, C-17s, F-22s, F-35s, A-10s, Ospreys. Just kind of like I didn't know what I was going to get from one day to the next. But really cool. I'll have to load some of the pictures I took. I did go to the Armament Air Force Museum down there. Saw a lot of cool stuff, but I'll get them uploaded and we can check them all out. So
cool. Yeah, that'll be good. Garrett, our guest, he is just double checking his connection. So this is live, live stream, live video. This is what happens.
Well, we were just all talking.
We were doing great, and then it's like we started the show, and then of course,
yeah, it's
not just me. Oh my gosh.
That's right.
That's too funny.
I
need to adjust my chair. Hold on. Okay. My chair's driving my ass nuts.
We might as well just turn it into every technical difficulty here.
I just said ass and nuts at the same time. Not sure.
Oh my God.
Hey, don't forget, everybody, the RampCheck podcast is live every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, right here on either YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter as well. And if you missed the live stream, like Lil Hess does a lot these days, you can always just go to our YouTube channel and depending on what platform you're using, you can look at lives, you can look at our videos. Anyway, you can catch the live stream and the podcast there. Podcast also available in audio version. That would be, wow, my mic went weird. That would be every brand new microphone too, by the way, guys. So we're trying that out for the first time. But audio version of the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, you know the drill. All those different platforms. And so
is that all?
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
It's quite a few.
So
but,
for those of you watching at home and not familiar, we're filling time right now.
Yeah, that's right. So I got a text from somebody that we know. He's driving home from work and he's got us on the phone.
That's awesome.
We won't say who it is in case he gets in an accident and they can blame it on that.
Well,
but anyway,
I think I already know who it is, but that's okay.
Thanks for watching, bro. And you're only going like 30 miles an hour according to the gauge, so you're driving safe. Good job. Okay. All right. Let's try the guest again.
Okay, we're gonna try him again.
Yeah. Standby one. I am just getting him on here again.
He's our mystery guest, eh?
Yeah. I know. This will be cool. Once we get it.
Just bring him on. We'll help him adjust.
Let's bring him on. Why not?
Why not? Oh, you want me to do it, Aaron, or are you going to do it?
Oh no, I'll do it. Okay, here we go.
What the hell?
All right, let's try it again. All right. Garrett.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up?
Hey, sorry about that.
No,
I had to move locations. I was down in my basement. For some reason, my Wi-Fi signal just started cutting out. I have no idea. So
that's okay. That's okay.
Closer to the router.
So before I introduce you, is there any way that you can light up from the other side because you're a little backlit and a little bit dark?
Yeah.
Well, I just
want to mention. Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Maybe he's ashamed to be on the RampCheck podcast, so he's not showing his face. I mean, I don't blame you.
Is there any
if
way
that's
we
the
can
case?
put a little question mark?
All right. How's that? Much better.
Okay. All right. There you go.
like this, ladies and gentlemen, this is our whistleblower that's joining us.
Right. No, hey, I just wanted to introduce you to everybody. So, and I don't. Do you just call it CW2 or Chief Warrant Officer 2?
Yeah. You just, either way.
Okay, cool. So CW2 Garet Cooper, AMSO, which Aviation Mission Survivability Officer.
That's right.
And it's 1-211th Attack Recon Battalion.
Yeah, that's right.
With the Utah Army National Guard. Did I get all that right?
Yeah.
So awesome. And he is an AH-64 Apache pilot. And it's badass. And he's flown in combat. It's awesome. So we've got some cool photos and some cool questions to ask him. And the thing is, and I didn't know this when I was talking to Garet, because he actually lives here in Utah. You know, we're all from Utah. Everybody knows that. But I didn't know that in the Apache, you actually have a pilot in command and a co-pilot gunner. So it's nothing like the F-15E in the U.S. Air Force, where you actually have a pilot and then you have, a Wizzo. So just real quick, Garet, why don't you just tell us, I guess, the main difference between the two, other than the obvious?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. They're similar, but yet different. So first off, they are tandem, but they're reversed, right? So the CPG actually sits in the front seat. The pilot in command sits in the back seat in an attack helicopter. And FYI, the Cobra is exactly the same setup. So the that the Marine Corps still flies. Okay. And then the other difference is traditionally with an NFO or Wizzo in the Air Force or Naval component, the NFO does not usually have flight controls. It's just all weaponeering, navigation, that kind of stuff. The difference is in the helicopter is there is a set of flight controls in the front of the helicopter that allows that pilot to also fly. Traditionally, though, the pilot in the back flies as the pilot in command. And when we're doing weaponeering, tactics, that kind of stuff, the front seater runs all the weapon systems, radios, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And what's the front seater's title again?
So CPG, co-pilot gunner.
Co-pilot gunner.
Yeah. That's the. It's an old term, but yeah, that's the term.
Well, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So both of you actually have the ability and are trained to fly the Apache, but
that's correct.
Specified the guy sitting in the back up top is the pilot. The other guy does all the other stuff.
Yeah. So traditionally, when you come out of flight school, we usually send guys to the front seat as a co-pilot, right? Less experience.
Okay.
Still learning all that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was
usually the best thing to do is to learn the weaponeering aspect. So most guys work on front seat type stuff, running the basic radios, talking to the ground guys, doing that kind of stuff. Because honestly, running the front seat is its own skill besides flying the helicopter. So we usually start there because flight school tends to focus more on the flying aspect. And then once you gain enough experience, usually around 400 or 500 hours in the aircraft, then you're looked at to upgrade, much like any other aircraft, like in civilian aviation and an airliner, where you start out as an FO, and then as you get experience, and then you upgrade to captain. It's the same thing.
Oh, okay.
You upgrade to pilot in command and move to the back seat with more experience.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And does it make you feel more comfortable that the junior guy is sitting up front?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like, it's the ultimate backseat driver, right?
Yeah, right.
So you're literally in the backseat, you're driving, and you're telling the guy, "Hey, this is what we're doing." But yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense. It's hard to explain when you sit in the helicopter, from the back seat in the helicopter, because of the way it's designed, because you sit about 3 to 4 feet higher in the back than you do the front, the visibility out of the windscreens and the canopy either direction is actually way better in the back, than it is in the front seat. And it really makes a lot of sense. And it dates back, like I said, to the Cobra days. The Cobra came out in the mid 60s as a necessity for Vietnam, for the conflict, because the Army realized, hey, we need a strict attack type platform. And not just Hueys, which Hueys were the first gunships that came with the rockets. Anyway, so that's kind of the setup.
And does the pilot in command position have any access to any of the weapons?
Yeah. So the pilot, yeah, that's a great question. So the pilot in command does have access to the weapon systems, mainly the rockets. So interestingly enough, because the front seat operates the laser, which is a target designator that gives proper ranging and all that kind of stuff. That allows you to use the gun, which uses laser range, and then also the missile system, which is laser guided and or radar guided. And in the back seat, actually, so the 2.75-inch rockets that we shoot out of the pods either side are actually the back seater, and it's kind of nice because it's set up that way to run both seats simultaneously. But generally, we don't shoot a ton of rockets anymore, just because of. I mean, we do for fun because they're honestly the most fun out of all three weapon systems. Just because they're old school, it's like Korea, World War II, Vietnam. They're just aerial fin rockets. They're not guided, and so they do take some skill. There is some serious skill with them.
Point and shoot.
It's kind of point and shoot. There is what's called I'm going to use my hand here, rocket steering cursor that goes in your, the monocle, the HDU, which is in your right eye, that actually helps. It actually does, the computer does aid you, but the manual ranges and you gotta, this is practice. You just gotta get good at it. So,
wow. Oh, that's cool. I've noticed, we go down to Nellis and cover, some red flag the Air Force puts on every year a few times, and I've noticed some A-10s and even some F-16s have had some rockets.
Yeah, they do. They actually do carry them. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So that would be fun from any platform to blast those off. That's pretty sweet. So what we can do is, before we go into any more questions, let's just start out from what got you into aviation. How did you stumble upon, oh damn, I'm going to be flying the Apache? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's a great but complicated long story if you have time.
That's okay.
So one of the things, I'll start from the beginning. So both of my grandfathers were involved in aviation in the military. One served a career in the Air Force for 20 years, flew a variety of different aircraft to include fighters, bombers, and then later trainers, and even cargo in Vietnam and C-130s.
Oh, that's cool.
So had an amazing career, did a lot of different stuff. We could talk about that sometime. So naturally being around him, when I was younger, my mom and my parents worked a lot. So I spent a lot of time with him. And he really, how do I say it? I guess put the bug in me, right? I mean, little models, lots of hands going like this, and war stories.
How it always,
the hands. If there's not a hand fight somewhere, and then war stories from Vietnam and all that kind of stuff. And then my other grandfather served in the Marine Corps in World War II. On Corsairs and stuff. So World War II Vietnam veteran, had it from both sides, kind of cool. One was enlisted, one was officer pilot. So it's kind of cool, had both perspectives. And it kind of started from there. My dad always had interest in that as well. Took me to air shows. Matter of fact, that was a picture I should have dropped to you. There's this picture of me when I was about 5 here in Utah before I moved away, sitting in a Huey. Sitting in the seat in Huey, who knew, 30 years later.
That's really funny.
So that kind of got the bug going. And then, of course, not to be cliche, but you got to bring up Top Gun, right? So I'm 39, 1984, do the math. A few years later, 84, 86, 87, as my mom said, I wore the VHS tape out, which, so had to buy a couple of those. And so anyways, between the two of those things, I just have always had a passion like you gentlemen for aviation and all that. So, I
have to ask you too, did you wear out the Firebirds tape?
That's a great question. And that's actually, that's a place. That's a place we don't go. So
What?
Yeah. So ironically, that movie is not well received, even though it's our own version. And I knew that somebody would bring up Firebirds because what would we do without Nicolas Cage flying an Apache for 2 hours?
I was going to ask you this before Aaron brought it up. Do you ever just find yourself when you're flying and maybe you're shooting, you're practicing out on the Utah Test and Training Range, and you're like, I am the greatest. I am the greatest. Do you ever do that? Do you ever find yourself?
There's been a few moments maybe where I've been tempted to say that, but at the same time, it's kind of funny. So we actually, here's a quick story. I don't want to digress too much, but on this podcast, but
it's good.
So when we were in flight school, the Apache community is naturally, out of all the airframes, right? They all have different personalities. I know you gentlemen have spent some time with the Air Force and the Navy and stuff. And obviously, for anybody listening out there, obviously the fighter community versus the cargo community versus the lift community, they all have different personalities, right? Yeah. And helicopters are exactly the same. So the old joke is that we're the carnivores and you're the herbivores, right? So that's kind of the analogy that we use. But anyway, with that goes with a high Type A personality, and so naturally, with some of these flight instructors in flight school, some of them were actually pretty brutal, right? So it has that very fighter pilot, very Type A mentality. Anyway, when every week. Because the only way that you learn is you have to shame people, right? So we had to come up with something as public shame every week for somebody who did it. And then what we would do is we would line up the people that made all the mistakes all week at the end of the week of flight training. And then the instructors would sit in the back of the room and they would pick who the worst offender was. And so naturally with that, it started out with some basic stuff. Like some people had dumb stuff, like a rock with a handle on it that they had to carry around as the walk of shame. Yeah. But we got one better. And this is what ties into Firebirds, right? Because naturally that's, like I said, it's a cliche subject amongst Apache pilots. So we made this pink vest. And every week you had to put new ornaments, something on it. Well, of course, to start off, the back of this vest had a, 24 by 14-inch picture of Nick Cage from Firebirds, in the Apache on the back.
Perfect.
And so
that's hilarious.
As you would walk away, there would be constant shaming between all the other instructor pilots. There's tons of guys out there at Hanchy Airfield and Rucker. Anyway, long story short, it's actually kind of weird. Most of the Apache community really hates that movie.
That's funny.
Really hates. And to finalize with this, my instructor who we used to joke with hated it so much, and naturally you have to give a gift at the end, right? Because they just spent 6 months of time almost dying with you every day.
Yeah.
So what did I do? We bought him 2 copies, one from one of each of my 6 stick buddies, and gifted the Firebird. And I'm pretty sure I heard that thing crack in the back of his office and go right in the dumpster. As soon as we walked out, I was
that is funny.
Well, so that's kind of some backstory on Firebirds and the Apache community.
In honor of that, I just want to play a quick.
Oh my God!
I am the greatest.
Okay, that's good.
Sorry, I wish we had a longer clip. But, oh well.
No, it's funny though. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was
Sorry.
just gonna say, when you compare like Top Gun to Firebirds, I mean, you got Tom Cruise, Nicolas Cage. I mean, when you're a kid, it's not very obvious, but as you kind of mature a little bit, you're like, okay, yeah, I think Firebirds maybe isn't as cool as stuff.
Firebirds had some cool visuals. We'll put it that way.
It honestly did. So, I mean, like, here's my take with it. I have to try to give a non-biased take. There actually is some good stuff from it. So the aerial sequences that were shot, and I can't remember the history of it, but it was actually the Army, and I don't remember exactly where it was shot. But the shots like on the ramp where all the helicopters are taxiing around and he's out there, those are clearly all real. And the flying sequences where they show, the helicopters, where there's some Kiowas in there flying around, are all real. So I will give them that. It was at least a little better than Iron Eagle, even though Iron Eagle is
Oh,
a
yeah.
great movie. You know, it's a
Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah.
For some
Yeah.
reason, cheesiness in the 1980s didn't spilled over into Firebirds, but for some reason, Iron Eagle's okay. Don't ask me why that is.
I know.
But-
That's funny. That's so true.
So yeah, there's some truth, but air-to-air fighting in an Apache is an interesting take for a movie. But it was the Army, you know, they had to fight back against Top Gun of the Navy.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they had to do something.
So
one thing I'm going to say that you actually confirmed tonight for me by watching Firebirds. One aspect of those aerial sequence that actually is true is Nick Cage. He is actually firing the rockets from his position.
Yes.
So you've confirmed that pilots in command will do that.
Yep.
So that was a true aspect of the movie. That
There actually is
have
really
known.
true. Yeah, and I'll say this one last thing, and this ties into my flight school, which is kind of could lead into some other discussion about flying the Apache, the complexity of it. So the one aspect that movie gets extremely right and is spot on actually is the bag scenario. So the whole thing about him flying the monocle device, he's blacked out. You got Tommy Lee Jones in the front seat, right? And he's yelling at him and stuff. That actually is a thing. And that is highly accurate, actually. So in flight school, that is the most dreaded part of the entire 6-month program for Apaches. And that's honestly like talking about flying the Apaches. That brings me to actually flying it. That is the, as my IP said, the great equalizer. And it's something that really separates the Apache, honestly, from about any other aircraft. And a matter of fact, I think the only other aircraft that you could even compare it to, because I do know the Cobra does not have this capability, is the new F-35, which the Apache was doing this in the 80s. Because in your right eye, that the FLIR video from the TADS and PIMBUS that are out front, which are FLIR sensors, actually displays the image on your right eye. So it's not only used for weaponeering and tactics, but it's also used for flying the aircraft.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, which is crazy. So you can literally fly the Apache. That's why the whole saying, a matter of fact, I have it downstairs. It's a great book. Boeing a few years ago when they had the anniversary, made this really nice hardback book on the history of the Apache, and it's called "We Own the Night." And that's honestly where it came from in the 1980s, because the technology was far advanced for its time and way ahead of the game. No fighter platform was doing it. No other helicopter platform in the world was doing it. And it allows you to fly 0-0. So we do fly NVGs and we fly FLIR at this. And we actually have both. You can flip them up. And so in those low illum nights, and I know you've talked about Ken Hess, Black Hawk Pilot's been on here before, talked to you guys. There are times where other helicopters, because they fly NVGs, just won't go. When you have those 0-0 nights where there's zero illumination, the Apache has no problem because we fly infrared, we fly FLIR. So that aspect, anyways, to tie that into the movie, that actually is extremely accurate, and I will give it that. And it does show just how complex and how hard it actually is to fly the helicopter. So that part's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So continuing on with your story. So you've got, family that were in the military, lots of history there. So at what point did you know that you were going to join, and how did you, I guess, get selected to fly the Apache?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this is where it gets like long and complicated. So naturally, being from a family,
so's my Johnson. Oh wait,
I was waiting.
Don't set him up like that, Garrett.
Yeah, exactly. Truly an app greatness right here. No, that's a great quote. My wife's listening to this; she'll love that.
Oh yeah, nice.
So anyway, so I actually really wanted to fly in the Air Force, believe it or not, and the Army actually happened by accident. At the time, and I initially went to talk to the Air Force ROTC when I was initially at Utah State, and honestly, it all just kind of came by default. I actually never planned on flying helicopters. I planned on flying jets in the Air Force, and this was back in 2006 timeframe, 2005. And if you guys, historically, there was, 2 wars at the time, right? We were neck deep in Afghanistan and Iraq at that point.
Right.
And you would think that there was a demand for that. But at the time, ROTC, the Air Force and Navy actually was not having a pilot retention problem or shortage like they clearly are now. And so when I went there, the odds of getting selected, even with great GPA grades and physical fitness scores and all that, was extremely low. So I kept it in the back of my mind, kind of went about my business, and I was kind of bummed. And then, the Army just kind of fell into place. I went to Weber State at the time, our transfer because of programs. And Weber had always had a pretty great Army, very long-standing program that was very well run. And, I went in there one day and I started talking to them. The Army was like, hey, man, like, we need all the people we can get, because, the Army had been, they were so far deep in Iraq and Afghanistan that they actually had a real need for officers. And so the flying thing just came in and they're like, hey, we don't have jets, but we got helicopters. And oh, by the way, we'll give you a ton of money to get your college degree, and we'll pay for your books and all that. So, I mean, the rest is history, right? So I know it's just like, wait, you're going to pay for my college free money. The Air Force won't even do this right now. And there we go. This is actually as a more recent photo, but I thought I'd throw it in there because I couldn't find any of my flight school pictures. But that old beauty right there, the TH-67, which is was the first helicopter I ever flew, the trainer that the Army used for over 20, 30 years. They just retired. Awesome. They just retired it a few years ago. And I was like, hey man, I got to get a quick pic with this old beauty. For those that see it, it's just a Bell 206 Jet Ranger for the civilian. That the Army did a few extra things to it, but it's pretty much just a Bell 206. That's where we started in Fort Rucker, Alabama. It is really small.
Yeah, Jet Rangers are pretty small.
Yeah, they're pretty tiny, and I'm a pretty big guy. I'm like 6'3", 230.
Yeah, you look tall. You've never met in person, but you
definitely need to duck your head.
So it was always the knees, right? So they had the little, the anti-torque pedals, and sticking, you had to hang the knee out a little bit. It was kind of, it's a little painful sitting in that. Plus,
a little more roomy.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, so the rest is history. Graduated from college, got selected for flight school. Obviously, there's a process there. Joined the Utah National Guard there. Got a scholarship. Did all those kind of things. Got a ton of money, which was really great. Got my college degree, and in 2011, I went to flight school. So Fort Rucker, now Fort Novosel, Alabama. It was just recently changed, like 4 or 5 months ago. So,
and how many years have you been flying the Apache itself?
So the actual Apache. So I started my first flight in the Apache was in 2012. So I've been flying it just about 11 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So Garet, you've uploaded a bunch of photos for us to go through tonight. Yeah. Is there any particular order that you want to go in on these? Because I'm sure there's some good stories that can go along, with some of these.
Sure.
I'll put a few up.
So we can start. I mean, obviously you threw the TH-67 in there.
Yeah, threw that in there. Okay, so here's a photo. Go ahead and explain what that is.
Yes. So that big monstrosity on a cart. So that is a Delta model of AH-64 transmission. That's the main transmission. So if you look at the top where my arm is, that's where the main rotor mass goes.
Okay.
Up to the main rotor head, the accessory section is on the back. The reason why I threw this in there is because one of the things we'll talk about is, there's 3 models of the Apache, like it's a little bit of history, right? So first was the AH-64 Alpha, which came out in 1984, 85.
Wow.
And then and actually flew up until the early 2000s into Iraq and early Afghanistan, and then was finally retired. The Delta model Apache was a giant upgrade that came out in about 94, 95. Block 1, there was actually 2 variants of it. I flew both Block 1 and Block 2. And that was a huge upgrade because the old one was old steam gauges. The cockpit actually is similar to an older F-16 in the Alpha model. And then the D model actually went to screens. So, which was a big deal in the 90s, right? So that was way ahead of its time, right? Way before cell phones and all that kind of stuff. So the D model really digitized the Apache. And then, like I said, there was Block 1, Block 2. Block 2 came later with better upgrades, like a moving map and some different stuff. And then that follow-on goes to what we have now. It's actually been out since about 2012, 2013, the Echo model Apache, which is the newest version of the Apache, which is, the Army is flying currently. And there you go. Perfect. You got it right. That is the Echo model transmission. I thought this was kind of cool when I went to the Echo model course. If you look at the size comparison, I don't know if you can put them up together or just flip back, but you'll see,
flip back and forth.
believe it or not, the other Echo model transmission is about twice the size of the Delta model. You can't really see it great in that picture. It's significantly bigger. The reason why I took a picture is because one of the biggest upgrades that you see from the D to the E was power. Because what happened was the Alpha, they had the same drive system in the Alpha model as they did the Delta. And naturally, as the Army always does, they just add weight to it and don't increase power like most aircraft. And so the aircraft, I mean, why not, right? Like, let's just put a bunch just keep strapping things to the sides of it, and then we'll just keep it the same. It's totally fine. And so as the Delta model went on and more electronics came in, it became extremely power limited as a helicopter. And so when the Echo came, Boeing had to go right back to the design board and start talking about, okay, how do we get Alpha model power back to a Delta model with all these electronics that are strapped to the aircraft?
Yeah.
So, anyway, just gotta throw that in.
Things that you really don't just think about, I mean, what's involved. I mean, to most people, it's like, it's an Apache. It looks like it has a different exhaust system. It's painted newer. Maybe the rotor's a little different or something, but you really don't think about, all the upgrades and what's required when you add more power or change a rotor system. Right. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it is. And so with that real quick, so engines got upgraded on the E just to finish that. And then the blades, I don't have a picture of it, but the blades are actually different on the DE model. They're 6 inches longer, fully titanium composite. And a lot of the power came from the blades. So it's actually the E model has a lot of upgrades. It's actually kind of it's a different helicopter than the D model.
So there's a couple photos here. I'll put up. So,
nice.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay, yeah. Had to throw some of my cool,
Hell
fun.
Yeah.
So this was back in 2014. This was an awesome training where we trained with the California Guard. That's actually, what do they call the highway that goes along the coast? Is it Highway 1? I can't remember.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
PCH Highway 1.
The Pacific Coast Highway.
Yep.
Yes. So that was a cool picture. That's actually me and 414 there out front. That's me flying up Highway 1 up by Monterey, California. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, you're cruising an Apache up the coast,
Hell yeah.
Kind of having one of those, wannabe Maverick moments. Like, okay, I should have joined the Navy because this is way cooler than living in the dirt and playing with the Army. So
you can still buzz the tower in an Apache.
Yeah. You can at a much slower rate.
Let's see here. Let's throw another photo up. So. No, wait. The photo back here are these Delta or Echo Apache?
These are all Delta models.
Okay, so these are all Delta.
Yeah, okay. we got Delta models. So the Utah National Guard got upgraded from Alpha to Delta 2009.
Okay,
and we're still currently flying Block 2 Delta models. We're scheduled to get the Echo in 2 years from now. So.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So
Afghanistan. Just in time for the Foxtrot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just how it goes, right? I mean, it's like you finally get this new toy, and the Army's like, "Well, that's cool, but we already have something else." A couple different pictures.
Yeah.
We'll
sorry.
go to this one.
Yeah, I didn't mean to jump photos, but I know a lot of AVGEEKs. They think of the Delta Apache as the one that had the radome on top.
Yes,
and maybe just explain really quick why you don't see that as much anymore. At least, maybe in Utah we just don't. But and then we can go back to the other photos. Sorry, go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So and that actually will, if you save the mountain one for later, that's actually I should have told you what that was. That's Afghanistan, so we'll save that for later.
Oh,
So you
okay.
actually went to the
Okay.
right photo.
Okay.
This is just kind of another generic kind of fun photo, something cool I've got. Fly in front of Mount Rush, opportunity to fin. It doesn't get more Americana, Team America. Than America than this picture right here. So going to the radar, so the big cheese wheel on top. So you're right. The Delta model also added that capability. It does have an air-to-ground radar system on it that the Alpha model didn't have. The reason being that you don't see them much anymore, or at least right now, but you'll start to see them more, is just the nature of the fight. So we spent 20 years fighting what we call coin counterinsurgency in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those kind of fights did not necessitate radar capability and its weight, right? So helicopters are extremely weight driven, unlike fixed wing. So that thing with all the boxes, it's about 800 to 900 pounds with the whole thing. So it's a huge weight savings.
Yeah, that's
most of the Apaches you see just don't have them just because of weight. However, with the change in fight, Afghanistan, Iraq kind of in the rear view window, now looking at PACOM issues, Russia, other what we call near peer adversary type scenarios, the radar is starting to come back and will be more important in the future. So,
so we'll see those more in the future then, is what you're saying.
Yeah. You're going to start seeing a few more of them. The interesting thing is you don't really need. Every helicopter doesn't need to have one. You actually need about 1 out of 4 or 5 because one can get the radar data and actually transmit it to the other helicopter. So it's not really needed for every helicopter, but they are helpful. So
that makes sense. All right.
And the Echo model, by the way, has the same capability. You can it has the same radar. They have an upgraded radar that looks the same.
Okay.
So this might be a no duh question, but what's considered the longbow Apache then?
The longbow is the D model. That was the D model. And the longbow came from the radar because it's called the longbow radar, right? Which always has the Native American, connotations with it, with the names and stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha.
Just a couple of people checking in really quick. Taz Chrisman saying hello. Hey, Taz, thanks for joining the live stream tonight. And Aircraft Images mentioning you could continue to dive on the control tower. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, you could. That's one way to cheat. I can't do it in straight level, but if I climb high enough and I just pitch it over, I can hit the sound barrier. Like Airwolf, right? That's a whole nother TV show from the '80s that the '80s was a magical time. It really was.
Yes, the '80s. We love the '80s. The music, the TV shows, the movies. It was the best. So Garrett, I just want to tell you. So Taz, who's on the screen right now. That's his call sign. He actually flew B-1 Lancers in Afghanistan in combat. So, he was in the bone flying up overhead, bombing the shit out of, the bad guys. And it'd be interesting if you guys were in country at the same time. That's pretty cool because, he flew bones for years.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So
lots of those great what we call CAS aircraft, close air support. Flying we call it the stack, flying the stack between AC-130s and drones, and all kinds of different aircraft. So
that's cool. Okay, let's go to another photo. Sorry.
Oh yeah. One more comment. 1 out of 4 Apache J stars. This is from our
1 out of 4 Apache J stars. I like it. That's another sad thing. The old that takes me to the E8, right? The J star is pretty much done. It's kind of gone. So
they're starting to retire them.
Yep,
it's crazy.
And Taz just checking in really quick again, saying that he was in Afghanistan in 2011.
That's right.
Okay, cool. 2011,
Yep.
So a little bit before Garrett.
Yep.
But,
and by the way, if you have any questions for Garrett today, don't hesitate to send it if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, of course. And when you're there, like, subscribe, share, do the thing. Send your questions in as well. we'd love to hear from you. And I'm hoping we get some pretty cool stories from combat.
Oh yeah.
That's
Cool. So
coming, right?
I just this photo here, love that. That's got to be. Is that Afghanistan or Utah?
No, that's actually the Wasatch Front right there.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's a great
Awesome.
photo.
Yeah, that is, man. That sunlight is like perfect.
Yeah,
I love that. As an aviation photographer, I just love that. That
yeah,
makes
you
me
guys.
so
I was gonna
jealous.
say, hence the lighting references. And I'm terrible at that kind of stuff.
That's funny.
So-
Let's see here. Okay, so these photos, I'm just okay. So here's another one. Okay.
Yeah, so I threw kind of that in. That's our task force there in Afghanistan at a Bagram. So we were based out of Bagram. Always do the classic task force picture. Just kind of cool. So that's the ramp there in Afghanistan. You can see that we have all 4 helicopters. We have HH Mikes, which are medevac, the 64, the CH-47 Chinook, which is an absolute workhorse in Afghanistan, and then obviously the regular 60, assault, air assault type mission. So that was the task force. Yeah, that was 2020 and 21. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Here's some more. Here's another photo. A bunch of was that during
so
that
I had a I figured there's some Air Force guys on here. So that was our that was a Freedom. You probably heard the term Freedom Bird. That will always hold a special place in my heart. The Freedom Bird that took us all home from Afghanistan after a year. So we got a quick photo. I also thought it was cool because we had 2 of that's inside a C-17. That's 2 Apaches shoved in there.
Wow!
You gotta hand it to those Air Force loadmasters. I don't know how they do it. It's Tetris, but they they load those things to the hilt. A bunch of great people there, and like I said, over in the corner, you can't really see him. He's in the back, sitting by the engine. I can't remember his last name, but that was a Fulbright colonel. He was actually the wing commander out of Washington at the time. Cool guy. Back
by the engine.
Yeah, I thought that was really
Kurt
cool.
Russell.
Yeah, it's Kurt Russell, right?
He was in Stargate.
Yeah, it was in Stargate. You're right. There is some eerie, uncanny doppelganger-ness going on with that.
Hey,
But
I just met you. Which one's you?
So dude, I'm not in. I'm the one taking this photo.
He's the taking the photo.
Yeah, this is just kind of cool. It's a shout out to the Air Force guys, the lift.
Very cool.
They it's amazing what they do. They take people there, they bring them home. And I just thought it was really cool. That's just how we carry the Apaches. I also kind of answers questions. There's the Freedom Bird again.
Right.
It's just kind of cool how we get home. A lot of people are always like, how the heck do you get a big giant helicopter over to Afghanistan? You clearly cannot fly that thing across the country like you do with fixed wing or across the world. So that's how we do it. We actually put them in C-17 C5s. So
nice. Okay, let's pull up another shot.
Yeah, that's another great photo. That's one of the SF teams that we worked with. You can see the cool part on the right-hand side is their working dog. So they had the working dog up on the shoulder.
Cool.
Yeah, with 2, I'm over on the left helicopter there hovering. We had to get the hovering Apache shot at Jalalabad. And that photo is actually we closed that base down. So that was actually probably the last month or 2 that Jalalabad was open. And if anybody knows any history in Afghanistan, that base has some extremely significant history, especially yesterday, given the Osama bin Laden death anniversary was actually yesterday. And a little fun fact, that is the runway that the task force took off of that went into Pakistan.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool.
That's sick.
But anyways, that's a picture. Got to give a shout out to the ground guys, the special forces guys, all the people, the guys in Afghanistan. Amazing people, amazing professionals. I just can't say enough awesome things about them. I mean, there's some amazing Americans out there that do some amazing things every day that I just don't think get the accolades or the love that they should.
For sure.
Those guys probably love you guys and the A-10s, right?
Yes, they do. They do. Yeah, they absolutely do. The working relationship that we have with close air support between A-10s, Apaches, and all that kind of stuff with the ground guys. Yeah, we live and die by each other. I mean, really. So, especially in that.
I'm sure. Wow.
So when you guys, so you said you closed this base down and you guys left. You were pretty much the last.
Yeah,
ones there,
yeah.
right?
We weren't stationed out of there, but we
Mhm.
flew to support it. We supported it very regularly, and so, like I said, that was probably one of the last photos taken at the end of in the middle of 2021, right before it completely was turned over to the Afghans. Completely.
Oh wow.
So,
Okay.
Now, when you guys left, did you take everything with you?
we took everything that we had. I
Yeah.
can't speak for the rest of it.
Guys just didn't leave
That's
it
a
all
whole
behind.
nother
Okay, that's a good
conversation.
thing.
We did.
I know.
I can't speak for the rest of the. I have
Hope-
no idea.
Hopefully you took the hot pink shirt though, because I'm not sure he'd want to be out there in the field with that shirt on.
Exactly. Well, that was the fun. I think it was Friday, right? So
Yeah,
you have to do fun Fridays. And
exactly.
Obviously, the SF guys are in a world of their own. So
Oh,
they do
that's so
SF
funny.
guy things, and it's awesome. So
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. Here's another photo.
Another cool photo. Another shout out. This was a cool training exercise. This is it's a beautiful area. That's the Marine Mountain Warfare Training Center that's up in central Northern California.
Oh wow!
The Marines were smart. You know, they might not have the greatest or newest equipment, but I'll tell you, they pick great places to live and train. And one of them is right here. This is only like 20 miles north of Yosemite National Park, if you know how Sierra Nevada. So it is an epic training area. We were guests. Is the attack platform. You can see it's a cool picture. Worked with the CH-53 heavy lift squadron there and the ground Marines. This was just a cool picture that we took together, Army and Marine Corps. It was a phenomenal exercise that we did about 4 years ago.
Awesome.
So,
I'd
anyway,
imagine
cool.
that area and the training for Afghanistan and the altitude, the terrain probably was just perfect.
Yes, exactly. Between Utah mimics it perfectly, and here, and that's absolutely what we did. As a matter of fact, that was one of our last big train ups before we went into Afghanistan. So that's exactly the scenario. So anyway, I also like this photo too because it just, the Apache is not a small helicopter. It really isn't. It's 50 feet long. It weighs 18,000 pounds. It's pretty big. But that CH-53 Super Stallion, the size comparison gives you an idea of just how massive that helicopter is.
Yeah.
Just
those are huge.
Unreal helicopters.
So I don't mean to jump around on the photos because I can't
fine.
quite tell where they were taken or but here's another one.
Yeah, another cool one. So this one was actually taken this is all Utah Guard. This is out in Dugway, actually. This is a really cool exercise. I'm in the first aircraft right here with the FC, the radar on top. That's actually one of the JTACs from 19 Special Forces, which is another sister unit here in the Utah Army National Guard. And it was a cool exercise that we did with artillery that we had never really done before. And the reason why I took this was actually taken by, I think, the PAO actually of the state. So it's a really well done photo. But we actually sat at a hover and called artillery in from about 15 miles away. So it was pretty cool. I was in the front seat that day, and I literally got to call artillery and watch the round strike in front of me in a helicopter.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow. That's badass.
So, yeah, just kind of a cool thing. Another shout out to the ground guys, 19 Special Forces, and just the joint training that we go on. And, of course, you got to have – this was my last hoorah in Afghanistan, last ride. Yeah, so one of our crew chiefs got it, but it kind of gives you an idea of the gear we wear in Afghanistan. So you can see that it's kind of cool. The helicopter, we actually do have an M4 that we carry. We also carry a sidearm M9 and body armor and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of unique because the fighter guys, don't quite understand that. We fly low enough that we do get shot at quite regularly, and so we do wear body armor. Full body armor and as well as have M4s and stuff like that. Because as you know, there's been enough helicopters shot down over 20 years that you could find yourself on the ground somewhere.
Right.
So anyway.
So speaking of that being shot at, and we're looking at a few pictures here and you're deployed to Afghanistan. do you have any stories that you could tell us without getting in trouble, obviously, because you're still serving, but
it's kind of hard with that, with those combat type stuff, because I'm still in and it's pretty recent. But I mean, I mean, I don't know if there's anything that like specifically stands out. I mean, there's lots of, moments, if you will. Like I said, a lot of it was, working with different entities. I was lucky enough that because we were closing Afghanistan down, my deployment was much different than a lot of the younger other guys that were, when we had 80 to 100,000 guys there, and we were, they were co-located in tiny little little areas that they worked in. So I actually started out in Kandahar, which is southern Afghanistan. Spent about 3 or 4 months there, actually closed Kandahar base down, and then moved north to Bagram. And so I got to see about 2/3 of the country, which was extremely rare because in prior deployments that didn't happen. You went there for 9 months and you were stuck in like probably a 80 by 80 mile radius, because there was just so much going on.
Yeah.
We worked with a lot of different groups. It was kind of a different deployment. We obviously had COVID too, which was a whole other story on its
crazy.
own.
So
we had to deal with all that. And so,
wow.
and people were getting sick and stuff. So it was hard to deal with it. But yeah, like, so, a lot of it, the ground troops had moved out. We still had NATO presence there. So, you still had like Romania and Georgians and different stuff. And I think I put a Georgian picture. There's a church in there, which is kind of cool, kind of a unique thing. And then a lot of it, honestly, was just supporting also the Afghan army, Afghan commandos and stuff that were on the ground, because that was the whole idea, right? Obviously, it didn't quite end that way, but the way that we had hoped it to end. But we're slowly handing off the mission to the Afghans at the time. So that's in Bagram. That's a Georgian rock church.
Yeah.
The reason why I throw that in there is kind of
pretty
interesting,
cool
not to be like
looking.
religious,
Yeah.
not to be like religious, but the interesting thing about that is, you have to remember, this is a Christian church, the only one that I know of other than in Bagram, Afghanistan, in a completely Muslim country. And the other crazy thing about this is, it's all Muslim. So this would not be allowed outside. The only reason why it was allowed is because it was inside 30-foot cement walls inside the base.
Okay.
But the cool thing is, a shout out to our NATO brothers. That church was made by hand. If you look, those rocks are individually placed.
Wow, that's
and
crazy.
They made that entire church by hand with rocks. So
that's
just kind
sick.
of a unique thing.
Yeah.
With their total style of architecture and stuff from that, Georgia area, Baltic area of the world.
Yeah.
So anyway, just kind of an interesting thing. Kind of shows you, and obviously Afghanistan, a lot of people, it seems desert. So it kind of shows you that there actually are trees.
Yeah.
And there is, certain landscapes. Afghanistan's actually got a pretty vast landscape. So
interesting. And not to make light of this photo, but in the clouds up there, it looks like a Tomahawk cruise missile going by.
Yeah. You're right. That's a great catch. I don't think I ever put that together. So that was a great catch. But anyway, just kind of a, I thought it was a really cool side note, just kind of an interesting thing about that went on in Afghanistan, and something that the Georgian people did, shout out to the NATO troops. Okay. This is one of the famous ones. I don't know if you gentlemen have heard, or anybody that's listening. So Bamiyan is one of the famous places in Afghanistan. And I was lucky enough to actually fly up there a few times. And you can Google this. What's interesting is so some of the history of Afghanistan wasn't always Muslim. Before the Islam spread, it actually was Buddhist. So that giant carving that's cut out of that mountainside, the city's like thousands of years old. There used to be a giant Buddhist statue that was in there.
Yeah, I think I heard about that. The Taliban destroyed it, right?
Yeah, the Taliban blew it up with. So if you go on Google, you can Google it, and there's pictures of the statues before 2001.
Wow.
Before the Taliban blew it up. Anyway, really cool though. It's that area, the history. That the reason why I show this is that Afghanistan. It's really unfortunate because it would be a phenomenal tourist destination if it was stable. There really is some incredible history there, and it's ancient. The other thing I was going to note about that's kind of cool about the history of Afghanistan is that city is linked to the Great Silk Road, where Alexander the Great went through. So he actually was through that area. The other person that actually was in that area was Genghis Khan. So not to like get a history lesson going, but yeah, I mean, you're flying around these places, and I mean, it's like mind blowing. You're like looking at this stuff, and you're like, dude, Genghis Khan was operating in this area. Alexander the Great was hanging out here. Like, I mean, really cool, fascinating things. So anyway, just kind of another shout out to and the reason why I wanted to show some of this and highlight to this today is obviously Afghanistan, obviously, as we know, this last year or two, as it shut down, it did not go as we had hoped it to go. And so I try to show people the humanity side of it, that it really is a great country with a lot of history, a lot of great people, and it's something that, had it gone a different direction, it really could be a wonderful place for people. So anyway, another deployment photo, just throwing it out there. Kind of, you can see the kit. That was kind of the standard kit. That was actually in Kandahar, so southern Afghanistan, desert, more desert, no trees or anything. As far as the aircraft, you can see that's kind of the standard loadout. So on that side, we flew 2 Hellfire missiles, and then 1 pod of rockets on the other side. I think I threw a picture of what the full loadout, a pod of different rockets, and then of course the 30 millimeter gun there.
How come the Apaches weren't painted in like a desert camo?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know. The Army, the Army. I don't know if it just didn't make that much of a difference. I don't know. I mean, the Army did it with Abrams, actually. So the M1 Abrams, they used to be green, and when they sent them to Iraq, they actually changed them to the tan coyote color. But with aircraft,
I think the only Army helicopters are the Chinooks, right? That you'll see the tan color, but all the Blackhawks, all the Apaches, they're all just. Yeah, interesting.
Standard OD green, right? So that's a great question. Another great picture I just wanted to show. So this is one of my good friends, Jordan Watt, still one of my best friends. This is a special picture to me, not just because I got to do a mission with one of my best friends, but the reason why we have the flag there is we would often fly flags, which is obviously you guys have seen that probably with the Air Force and the Navy. It's a great tradition to fly them in combat. But this was a day that I actually flew out to Jalalabad on 9/11. So it kind of came full circle, right? So you're like, man, when in my life am I gonna fly a real mission out to Jalalabad, where the Bin Laden raid started on 9/11? Exactly. So here's the other crazy thing. That was in 2020. So almost exactly 20 years from the day, the start of 9/11, which is what brought us back to Afghanistan. Kind of crazy, right? I mean, never in my life. Everybody knows where they were on 9/11. I never thought in my life I would be sitting in an Apache helicopter flying in Afghanistan 20 years. I mean, think about that. Still fighting a war 20 years later.
Wow. That is crazy.
On 9/11 with one of your best friends. So kind of a special picture. So
yeah, really. And so before, I don't know where we are on time, but I mean, there's a few other questions we can go with. Yeah. So, but going back to a story, a combat story, I mean, these photos are awesome, and but getting shot at, or blowing some shit up. I mean, what?
You
know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's there. There's
we'd love to hear. We'd love to hear what you can. For sure.
The interesting thing with a lot of that is a lot of it, like I said, ended up being the support role, because we ended up having to hand off the mission to the Afghans. So a lot of times, to be quite honest with you, there was times where we were kind of flying with one hand behind our back, because at that point we weren't allowed to always do things. But I have tons of stories. Probably one of the ones that sticks out the most in my mind out of all the time there was a day. So we were on QRF, right? Quick Reaction Force. So it's kind of interesting because you're on 24 hours a day. Not all the aircraft are like that, but we are, right? Because we're on alert all the time. So kind of like Battle of Britain, right? So that's what I thought of myself as. If you remember that, that's a great aviation movie. The Battle of Britain. So the British guys in World War II that would hang out and read the newspaper and have lunch and tea and wait to get the call, to jump in their Spitfires and go.
Yeah.
We actually did the
yeah.
exact same thing. So we were on shift for 12
Oh, wow.
hours.
That's
And one
cool.
day at the end of shift, right at the change of shift, so it usually was like 5 or so in the afternoon, about an hour before then, we got a call for Jalalabad, which is not a close flight. It's through the mountains. This is at a Bagram. So it's a good, if I remember correctly, it's about a 45-minute flight in the helicopter to get out there. And it's through rugged terrain. If you go back to that one picture of the single Apache in the mountains, that is an Afghanistan photo. So there you go. That's actually on the way out to Jalalabad. I put that photo in there because I want to give you an idea of how big those mountains are. Those are the Hindu Kush mountains.
Wow.
Those mountains in the back are 18 to 20,000 feet. I mean, they make, yeah, those mountains, the picture doesn't do it justice. They make the Wasatch Front look like, they look like foothills, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it is unbelievable how big those mountains are. So that is actually a picture going out to Jaff. So flying out of Jaff, we get the call, and the most unfortunate thing happened. ISIS was also operating in the area along with the Taliban and other people.
Yeah.
And they had hit the city just outside the base where that was with IEDs, except this time it was a coordinated attack, and they usually would only do one. They hit 3 simultaneously at the same time. And so going and responding to that, unfortunately, by the time you got out there wasn't a whole lot we could do, but it was a great reminder of just what and I say this because, there's kind of an Afghanistan movie coming that just came out. I don't know if you guys have seen The Covenant yet. Not to throw that out, there. Not that I'm like representing that movie or anything for this, but
are you in it?
I will. Yeah. No, it's a ground guy, the guys that do real stuff. But anyway, they kind of show some of that part. But anyways, launching out there, real world, down now. Unfortunately, by the time we got there, because it's just too far, there wasn't a lot we can do. But we secured the area and stuff. But I will tell you, seeing the devastation, and 3 IEDs simultaneously go off in that area. Obviously, the SF guys, the commandos that were out there that I showed you earlier, did a great job of securing the area, took control, took some bad guys out and stuff like that. But anyway, that always struck my mind because that happened quite a few times. But that was probably one of the most significant moments going out there when you get that call and you're like, hey, man, 3 IEDs. I can't remember the total dead. I think it was over like 30 or 40 people at one time,
terrible.
Not to mention the wounded, the cars on fire. Yeah. But it is a sobering feat. It is a sobering thing when you fly over the top of something and you just see burning everything. And I bring this up just because it's not one of the great guy stories where you're engaging somebody, but more of just the fact that even when you fly this amazing $40 million helicopter and you have every asset, every awesome thing in the world, there still are times where you just can't help anybody or you can't do anything. I bring that up because I think about it a lot, that despite all the great technology, all the great things, sometimes you do get bested. So anyway.
Yeah. And you know, what's interesting too, is I think that's what sets, the American soldier apart from, like the Taliban or ISIS. I mean, it's like, just like what you said. I mean, you're in that situation, you feel helpless because there's not a whole lot you can do, and you reflect on it, and it's like, those terrorists are just like, how many people did I kill? Like, I don't give a shit. Like, so what? I mean, they almost worship death, because they don't care if they die. I mean, they're going to take out as many people, as they can. So,
valuing life and having a soul.
Yeah, I mean, never in the history of the world has a country done so much good and not asked, for the favor back. And I mean, that's why, we're always appreciative of those that serve, and you and Tony was in the Air Force in the 80s, and
Utah Air National Guard, by the way.
He actually was with the 151st. I mean, that that's why, I mean, we've always, been huge supporters of, of our troops and our military, and just shout out to you guys for doing what you do. I mean, it's so important. I mean, we enjoy, the freedoms and being able to, do the podcast and go witness. I mean, I live out in Eagle Mountain, Utah, and you guys are always flying right over my house, and I just love it. And so
3 blocks from the airport.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you're on approach over my house. So sometime you're up there, I'll try to get your attention. Maybe you can...
yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask you guys.
Just don't use a laser, all right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, a little laser pointer.
That's like. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna
ask,
is that how you and Aaron met? You were just flying over his house.
Yeah. I got a laser right through.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
It would be my camera lens pointing at you. Like, holy shit, that's a big piece of
kidding.
glass.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I gotta tell you though, like I live so close to the airport, and I love when I'm just chilling in my house and the house starts to flutter a little bit, and a few Apaches or Blackhawks just fly so low over the house it just shakes the house. And there's some people out there that's probably like, that's so annoying, and I'm like, that's so awesome.
They're like, hell yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah,
bring what you guys do for sure.
So we have a couple of comments and questions.
You got a couple questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Can I ask you one first? And would it be Garrett? Would it be putting you on the spot if I asked you what your thoughts were about the current commander in chief? I won't. No, I won't go there. I promise. I was just kidding.
Yeah. I have to. That comment, I will definitely have to defer. So neutral.
So during your kind of telling us about Afghanistan and some of the things, Taz mentioned had a few times where they handed off targets to the 64s.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Badass to watch them tearing up the shitheads.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, ask
that's cool.
What's his background? Is he just a ground guy, infantry? Or...
No, Taz is the bone pilot. The B1.
Oh, the bone pilot. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
He after the B1, he actually flew MQ-9 Reapers. So
okay, yeah.
And
I will say, I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm the first Apache pilot that'll tell you that the drones have more kills than any other CAS platform out there. Even Apache guys who we've done very well over the years have nowhere near the kills that drones do. Believe it or not. I mean, as much as flying a remote control airplane.
Wow.
We laugh at it, but it's no joke. It's no joke. They do a lot of the work. We'll say, in a lot of those situations. But yeah, awesome.
And then Taz also mentioned we would aerial refuel over those mountains. We'd be at 24,000 MSL and about 2,000 AGL. Insane. It was like low-level refueling.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Again, back to the picture. That's awesome, Taz. Like, it is really hard to describe how big those mountains are. Like I said, from the picture right there, you're like, oh, that kind of looks like the Wasatch, like somewhere in Utah. But those mountains are 7 to 10,000 feet higher than here.
Jeez, so, that's crazy.
That is
which really makes it, back to the helicopter thing, it makes it extremely challenging from a helicopter standpoint, just because, helicopters, are already power limited. Our service ceilings are really only like 15 to 17,000 feet. So when you're flying in these mountain scenarios, you're really flying these aircraft at the extreme aspects of their envelope. They really we're at max power, max weight, and it's actually really dangerous. And there's been quite a few guys who've been killed over the years in those scenarios. So anyway,
Matt Wadman says, "Thank you for your service. I wanted to ask."
You're very welcome.
And he said he wanted to ask if there was anything you would change about the Apache to make it better or more comfortable to operate.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually a really good question. I mean, if I had a chance, Tony, I'd put that seat that you're sitting in. It looks comfortable. I mean, I would.
Comfy one? Oh yeah.
Yeah, is that pretty comfy? I mean, it looks like one of those like racing seats. So I'd probably put one of those in the back. No, No, it's
stereo speakers.
Yeah, stereo speakers, exactly. Like more of a Bose system, instead of that helmet. No, honestly, one of the things that's probably a real limb fact for the aircraft right now, to be like technical, is the targeting system, is the TADS. It really needs an upgrade on the FLIR. It's gotten an upgrade on the day TV side. So because we do have a day TV and a camera and a FLIR video. I know that Lockheed has worked out some stuff that is pretty amazing. However, it's all dollars and cents, right? So you have to convince the right people to pay for it, and they just want to pay for everything else. But to answer that question, honestly, the sensor, I would upgrade the sensor. That would probably be the biggest thing that I think. I think from a power perspective, so we didn't really talk a lot about the D or E model, but the E model getting to fly it a few months ago at the transition, it has a significantly better power. We're talking the difference, and I know this is, to Taz or other fixed wing guys, this doesn't sound like much, but a fully loaded D model, I mean, you're pulling the guts out of it. You're only getting 130 knots out of it.
Wow.
The Echo model now, to give you an idea of how much more power and how much more efficient that helicopter is, you're up in the 160s. So, I mean, it used to be that we were telling everybody, hey, slow down, like Blackhawk and Chinooks are just gone. They're like a Lamborghini and a Ferrari in front of us. And now, the Echo model has changed the game. That thing has, the power margin on that thing is so insane.
Wow, nice.
You can keep up easily with those helicopters now. So from a power perspective, it's pretty awesome. The electronics are awesome in the Echo model. But yeah, probably the sensor would probably be the biggest thing that I would upgrade right now if I could have the money, unlimited funds.
Yeah.
Awesome. Matt Thiemann checking in tonight. Hey, Matt the man. He says he's been to a few air shows. And why do the Apache pilots always try to look cool?
Oh, always try to look. The sad thing is he says always try.
Always try.
It was not Apache pilots do look cool. It was always
I was going to
try.
say,
that's
apparently the Apache pilots
God.
that Matt saw were not successful.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know which. Yeah, that's probably not me. I mean, honestly, like the cool factor for us got taken away a few years ago. So that's kind of one of the other I don't know if Ken has ever said this to you, but they took our one-piece flight suits away. We wear those two-piece flight suits now. And so the coolness already went out the window. They want us to look like the ground guys. However, what's funny is we get the one-piece taken away. We think it's terrible. We don't look cool anymore, right? So the whole coolness is going away. And then I go to an air show, and all these Air Force pilots that fly special operations like the AC-130s or the lift guys, they're wearing our two-piece flight suits now, and they think they're just the coolest thing in the world. So you always want what you don't have, and then when you get something, somebody else thinks it's cool. But to answer your question, I don't know.
Maybe he should have rephrased it. Looking like Nick Cage.
Yeah. I was like, wait, is this Nick Cage? What?
And then another question here. Oh, you want to?
Oh, I was just going to
go
say
for it.
From Aid Carver. You mentioned wearing body armor, to CAS role. How far from target can you operate?
Oh, yeah, it's a good question. So we operate pretty close to the ground. We do wear body armor because we fly in a coin scenario. We're usually between 1,000 and 1,500 AGL. Sometimes lower, but it's pretty close to the ground, so well within range of small arms. As far as targeting and stuff, a good standoff, we usually like to keep within about 3 to 4 kilometer standoff in that kind of scenario. We do fly left-hand orbits usually, like we were talking about earlier before with the Spectre gunships. And then we can push in closer, usually 2 kilometers, 2 to 3 kilometers, when we do engagements and stuff. So
speaking of targeting, here's a cool photo.
Yeah. There's a cool photo. So, that's in Afghanistan. I mean, yeah, my buddy caught that with his iPhone, which is amazing.
Good job.
Which is pretty amazing. But I mean, that picture just turned out so cool because the rocket motor only burns for a split second. So the fact that it got the whole motor
awesome,
just blasting the whole pod
right out of the tube.
Right out of the tube. Yeah. Awesome shot of us. That's me shooting. That was me actually engaging a target with rockets from the back seat. So
sick.
Anyway, kind of a cool shot.
Yeah.
Did you hit or miss?
I think I hit that one. Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah, good answer.
Always. No, never miss anything.
I was gonna say I don't think I'd ever say I missed. So
Right.
Yeah, right. That's cool. All right. Well, we got a couple more photos here we can
Sure.
just go through real quick,
Okay.
and then and then we can probably wrap it up, man. This has been an awesome conversation. This is the first time that we've met you. We haven't even talked on the phone. We just going cold turkey into this thing.
Exactly, cold turkey. I mean, we've known each other through
that's right.
Messenger, but that's like the extent of our relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of that, this is a special photo to us.
yeah,
Dude.
Yeah. So yeah, you were deployed, and we were communicating back and forth, and we wanted to send you guys something special. So we threw these shirts together for you, and this was the most cool, awesome treat that we've probably ever gotten from our ramp swag. But
Why are you
love
guys
the
trying to
photo.
look so cool?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask. I was like, wait, this ties into what we were just talking about.
Exactly.
Sorry, Aaron. Continue. But
Yes.
No, that's all good. But anyway, I just wanted to ask you, Garrett. Well, first of all, we appreciate the photo, and we're glad that you guys enjoyed the shirts, and I think we sent some stickers too or something.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
But where was this photo taken?
So that was right on the ramp in Bagram, Afghanistan.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Love it.
Thank you for not saying airport number 2.
Yeah. No. You'll see the walls, the big metal wall there. So interestingly enough, all the helicopters, we actually have to back out the helicopter when we fly, because the helicopters, and you'll see off to the left there are 2 live Romeo model Hellfire missiles. There's 300 rounds in the gun and rockets.
Okay.
So they actually have us land in these pads for safety, just because the aircraft are fully armed all the time, just in case something goes off. So
and I also spy the little radar blimp out there on the top right.
Yes, of course. Anybody who's been downrange with Afghanistan or Iraq, that's the PTID. So here's kind of a cool, here's another cool little factoid for you. So one of the new capabilities is that we have a special antenna. Since they are a sensor, we can actually pull the feed from those blimps into the helicopter.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So you can actually look at what they're looking at, and then target, talk on target. So
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, and thank you for sending us this photo too. It was so cool.
Thank you so much for the gear's awesome.
That's great. And then let's see. Let's do one more photo. Here we go.
Yeah, I had to throw that in. That's from this last year. That's the family. So that's my wife, Andrea, Vera, and my son, James. Just kind of a fun family photo. Another kind of cool thing to highlight, the Army doesn't do a lot of cool things, but maybe this will, actually cut off as cool, according to the gentleman that wrote the conversation earlier. The Army took the one piece away, but they did give us the pink and greens World War II uniform back that you'll see that I'm wearing.
That's cool.
That is awesome.
And it's freaking cool. You'll see my wife and everybody dressed up in kind of that World War II kind of pin-up looking.
Cool.
Yeah, and the bow tie on your son.
It was my idea.
Great.
It was my idea. My son's kind of got the cabbie hat and stuff going. So the idea is to do a retro picture with the modern aircraft in the background, just kind of a throwback to World War II, which I have a deep love and passion for. That era of pilots and et cetera. So
you look like a B-17 pilot.
Yes, exactly. That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure, depending on what World War II theater, I'm sure they would have loved having a few Apaches there.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So hey, I think we can wrap it up. I mean, it's been awesome. We've appreciated every second of your time. And let's see, Tony has another question.
So
Cam.
we've got Cam asking why we call him the Eskimo, and then BMW Apache 1 would also like to know why you're called Eskimo.
Somebody once said you have to be drunk enough to answer that question. So
there
has to be alcohol involved.
So Yeah, is this like a call sign or a nickname story or something?
Yeah, it's a call sign. It's kind of a nickname thing. So it's voted upon. It's given. It's kind of similar to the
Oh,
Air
that's
Force and
awesome.
Navy. So anyway,
Well, maybe over some beers we can get the inside
there you
story
go.
one time.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
somehow I knew, or somehow I know that Cam and BMW Apache 1 and Cam knew you weren't going to answer that question.
That's the whole point, right? I mean, I can't tell you there's people in the past that I can never pull the question out of either. So.
He doesn't drink, and I'll be happy to tell you. Well, we could get some like Diet Cokes or something going.
Yeah,
know?
right.
Yeah, do that.
That's
for
cool.
part two.
That's really funny. Yeah, great.
Yep.
All right. Well, any other questions? Let's see. It doesn't look like we have any more questions.
Right. I just want to point out that you
go ahead.
are Aviation Mission Survivability Officer 1.
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct?
What was that?
Oh, that you're AMSO, Aviation Mission Survivability Officer.
Yeah. AMSO, yeah. So
Uh-huh.
Aviation Mission Survivability Officer, yeah. So there's tracks in the Army. There's instructor pilots, there's maintenance test pilots, safety officers, and aviation. So we specialize in survivability and tactics as kind of an expertise within the battalion.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's kind of a different role. Similar, I mean, the Air Force and the Navy have different versions, kind of similar things to it. It's not quite the same. The Army's starting to get there. They have weapons officers and Top Gun. The Army's starting to work on that. We don't really have an equivalent to that yet. But it's kind of similar to those type of positions where somebody kind of specializes in what we call a track. So being a special, an expert in safety, being an expert in being an instructor pilot, that kind of stuff. So
kind of that title on your way to your desk job in the future.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And let me point out, or I just want to say congratulations, because you're sitting here talking to us. So apparently it's working.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Survivable. That's right.
Yeah.
There was one more question, and it's kind of an observation, I guess, in question that I can bring up before we end it here. But I've noticed over the last several days there's been absolutely no Apaches or no Blackhawks flying. And I know, and Garrett, you can kind of go into this and just kind of explain to people what's going on, because they probably notice it where they live too. The Army aviation is kind of at a stand down right now.
Yeah, that's right. So,
and why don't you just go into that real quick, and that'll be the final question, unless Ryan and Tony have another one.
Kind of the current status. So the Chief of the Staff in the Army granted the aircraft this last week as a safety stand down, which is pretty common practice in aviation, right? When you start noticing trends and et cetera, and you need to figure out why that is, and how we can make it better. So the last 3 or 4 months, there's been a slew of accidents, more than normal, lots of what we call Class A accidents, like more than $2 million loss of life, et cetera. The first one was the one back in February, I think, the Alabama Guard helicopter, 2 lives lost. Then there was the one in, I believe it was Fort Campbell, 2 60s that collided, crashed, 9 individuals lost.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
Yeah, it was really bad. And then this last one, which was a week ago, which unfortunately took another 3 lives, injured a 4th up in Alaska. Those 2 are active duty, which involved 2 Apaches again colliding and stuff. So with just so many losses of life, multiple aircraft lost in such a short period of time, there's trends. It was kind of time to pump the brakes and see what can we do to make that better and improve. And so hence the safety stand down right now. And then there's some internal training and stuff going on, and then we'll get back up flying again.
Yeah.
So
I was just going to ask you that. In a stand down like this, I assume there's, a bunch of safety training and just to kind of refresh everybody's minds, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, and yeah, something that there's been some trends lately in the Army that need to be looked at and need to be addressed. So Yeah.
All right. So hopefully soon we'll see him flying again.
Yeah. We will be here shortly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Ryan and
Awesome.
Tony, you guys have any other questions? Final question
Right.
or
No,
anything?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'll just say, I'll reiterate what others have said. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you. Thanks for your service. You and your fellow pilots, military, all that. Huge appreciation for what you guys do, and thanks for giving us three AVGEEK brothers some of your time tonight.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and just echoing what Ryan said, thank you for your service. Thank you to your family for your service as well. Really
for sure.
And for being a badass Apache pilot. And I know, I just know that there's probably some footage somewhere of you saying that you're the greatest. I know there is. It's going to be there somewhere. Cam or anybody else?
It's classified.
Guys that fly with him. Come on.
I'm sure.
Come on, cough it up.
And then speaking of Cam, thanks for doing this, Coop. We're all very excited to see you this weekend.
Cam keeps it going, doesn't he? So we let this guy on
but
here.
all kidding aside, thank you again. Really happy to have you on the podcast.
Sure.
With us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. So
absolutely, it's great.
Yeah, we love to have you back too.
Anytime.
For sure.
Yeah, we definitely love to have you back.
Sure.
All right. Well, Tony, take us out, I guess.
Speaking of having you back, when you retire, that's when we really want to have you back so we can hear some cooler stories.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I'll let you know the retirement. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, right. That's great.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
Aaron?
Yeah. So anyway, again, we'd like to thank Garet for being on the podcast. Tony, I don't know if we just want to run through, you can listen to this. Tony usually uploads the audio version either, at least by the next day. So if you want to listen to this in your car, on your iPhone, whatever, but you can also, it's also, the live stream on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter is always available too after we live stream. So you can always go back, rewatch it. Please do share it with friends and family. The more exposure we get, the more opportunity we get to do the podcast and to have awesome guests like Garet on. So that's it for me. Thanks again, Garet. Thanks for your service.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Okay, everybody. Wow. What a great episode. Definitely want to thank Garet for coming on board and spending some time. I'm looking forward to some more stories though after he retires.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know you got it
for sure.
That's right.
Oh
That's right.
Definitely. And I know that video is going to surface somewhere. Hey, don't forget everybody, the RampCheck podcast live stream every Wednesday night right here on YouTube, also Facebook, Rumble, and Twitter. Make sure if you're brand new, stop by our YouTube page, check out some of our awesome videos, our growing collection of YouTube shorts at the same time, and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Aid Carver, been a good podcast. Good to get the insight. Absolutely. Taz checking in one more time. Great podcast as always, guys. Awesome stories, Garet. That's excellent. So
awesome. Yeah.
Once
Thanks,
again,
Taz.
I don't know if I have anything else for you guys as well. Nope. Aaron?
Yeah, we got to get Taz on again soon.
Yes, we definitely do. So, and as Aaron mentioned, the audio version of the podcast, of course, is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Google, Audible, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. You can check out the RampCheck podcast. Make sure you share it with friends and family. Don't forget about the Ramp Swag store. You saw that. Hey, Aaron, put that picture of the Ramp Swag up one more time.
Which picture?
This
one.
Yeah. This one. There you go.
Yeah.
If you want to get some cool stuff like that, head over to the Ramp Swag store, www.ramcheckglobal.com, and you can pick up your very own Ramp Swag. So, anyway,
cool. All right,
that's it. I'm Tony.
I'm Aaron.
And I just wanted to say God bless our military and this wonderful country we live in. And I'm Ryan. Good day.